Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Are we staring at the start of World War III in 3 years from now? Will China start a world war in 2027? Tonight on Gravitas, we tell you what the new head of the UK Army has said and why his comments are extremely worrying. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. Another plane crash in Nepal once again leaves behind a string of questions with no answers. How many more lives will be lost before answers emerge? We get you a special report on the world's most dangerous skies. Kamala Harris is leading Donald Trump for now, but can she really sustain that lead? We get you the latest from the US electoral battleground as the race to the White House only heats up. Which are the world's most powerful passports? Is yours on the list? We get you the lowdown. Is there sex bias in lifespan research? Is science affected by gender bias? We tell you why these questions are being raised. All this and more coming up tonight. Stay with us. Is World War III inevitable? Are we too blind to acknowledge the worst-case scenario? Have become too complacent, ignoring the signs that are becoming impossible to overlook with each passing day? Are we hurtling towards a dangerous period that could arrive sooner than later? According to the British Army Chief, the UK must be ready to fight a war in 3 years. A war against an axis of upheaval. Russia, China, Iran and North Korea. That's the term he used, axis of upheaval. In fact, he warned against a range of threats in what he called is a global problem. Now, with Britain, a nuclear power and UN Security Council member, warning its army to be ready in 3 years, if Britain is sounding the alarm, if the UK Army Chief is saying this, shouldn't the world take this seriously? Let's get to the context. On the sidelines of an annual army conference, General Walker, the new chief of Britain's forces, told journalists that he predicts Russian President Vladimir Putin will emerge from the invasion of Ukraine very, very dangerous and wanting retribution against countries like the UK, whether Moscow wins or loses. Besides Putin, But you see, that's just one part of the story. Walker's concerns may stem from China's threatening stance towards Taiwan. Will China invade Taiwan by 2027? It has been widely speculated that Xi Jinping has instructed the PLA to prepare for an invasion of Taiwan by 2027. Around the same time frame as Walker urged the British troops to be ready for a full-scale war. China, though, is not stopping just at Taiwan. It is eyeing the Philippines, particularly the disputed Sabina Shoal in the South China Sea, a flashpoint that could ignite a larger conflict. The question remains, are we prepared to stop pretending that the threat of World War III does not exist? Those too frightened to accept this reality choose oblivion. And you bet Taiwan and the Philippines are taking this threat very seriously. You see, Xi Jinping is not hiding his ambitions. China aims to make the 9-dash line a reality. But then again, this is not the Ming dynasty. The age of emperors and conquerors is long gone. A strategic thinker must deal with the worst-case scenario of a war and the best-case scenario of diplomacy. That's how the game works. General Walker seems to be preparing for all the scenarios. And his stark warnings highlight the urgent need for the British Army to rebuild its fighting power to deter future wars. He cautions against relying on outdated ideas about warfare, urging adaptation to new technologies, transforming the battlefield, such as using autonomous weapons, artificial intelligence, and new technologies to make soldiers more effective. General Walker emphasizes on the urgency of preparing credible land forces to support a strategy of deterrence against Russia, China, North Korea, and a nuclear ambitious Iran. He aims to double the army's ability to fight and kill by 2027 and to destroy an enemy force 3 times their size by the end of the decade. By the way, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has pledged to increase defence spending to 2.5% of the national income, up from just over 2% now. But many defence insiders believe even this boost is too small. So can the UK actually be able to credibly fight a full-scale war with such limited resources without more troops or money? The short answer is no. Like other Western countries, it will be heavily dependent on each other for support. Think about this for a second now. Up to 800,000 troops, 200,000 vehicles, massive amounts of equipment moving within 3 to 6 months of conflict. This is exactly what NATO leaders discussed and reviewed early this month at the Washington summit. NATO's new force model aims to have over hundreds of thousands of troops ready for conducting land, naval, air, space, and cyber operations in the eventuality of a large-scale war. The review found that 500,000 troops were presently ready for any such combat. But will that be enough for the Western forces to protect the current world order? Just last month, Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico said that Ukraine joining the NATO could spark a global conflict. Russian President Vladimir Putin echoed similar statements in the month of March, cautioning the West that a direct conflict between NATO and Russia would mean that the world was just a step away from World War III. So are we truly prepared for what might come? If history has taught us anything, it is that it takes just one incident to trigger a wider war. The assassination that started World War I, Germany invading Poland started World War II. Are we on the brink of another incident that can lead to an all-out war? Are we prepared for a war fought in the Pacific, the Himalayas, Siberia, the Pamirs, a nuclear Armageddon? The spectre of World War III is not just a distant nightmare, but a looming possibility. The signs are all around us, growing clearer day by day. Let us now tell you about the world's most dangerous place to fly. If you are thinking Nepal, you are on the right runway. Today, another plane crashed in Nepal. It was the 13th crash in the last 12 years. 13th in 12 years. This was a Bombardier CRJ-200 jet. It belonged to Nepal's Saurya Airlines and it was headed to Pokhara. There were 19 people on board, 17 technicians who were going to Pokhara for some maintenance work, and 2 crew members. The plane took off from Kathmandu's Tribhuvan International Airport a little after 11 a.m. in the morning, but it crashed soon after and burst into flames. We have the video of the plane's final moments. Let's just play it out for you. Eighteen of those on board lost their lives. The plane's pilot is the lone survivor. He is now battling for his life. Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli convened an emergency cabinet meeting to discuss the crash. Will the Nepalese cabinet be able to ensure that Nepal's skies become safer? To answer that, we must look at how Nepal has previously responded to plane crashes. Last year, a Yeti Airlines plane crashed in Pokhara. All 72 people on board lost their lives. A probe was ordered. The investigators found that the crash was possibly the result of pilot error. The pilot reportedly cut the power by mistake. Can you believe that? What happened after that? Did Nepal or Nepal's Civil Aviation Authority take additional measures to ensure the pilots flying Nepal's many airlines are adequately trained, or that they follow all safety protocols, basically to ensure that no more lives are lost?
Plane खसेर पोखरामा अहिले भर्खर है
You see, pilots flying in Nepal have a history of not complying with air traffic control's instructions. Previously, at least 2 pilots have been grounded in Nepal for disobeying the ATC. But then again, has much changed is the question. The co-pilot of the Yeti Airlines plane, Anju Khatewada, had lost her husband to another crash. Deepak Pokhrel was flying a twin-otter plane in the year 2006 when it crashed in Nepal's Jumla. It was his loss that made her take up flying. But how much really changed in Nepal's civil aviation between the 2 deaths? You see, crashes, unfortunately, remain commonplace in Nepal, and that is increasingly worrying. In the last 12 years, 13 planes have crashed in Nepal. So basically, every year, at least 1 plane crashes in Nepal. Is it just coincidence or is it negligence? Do you blame the topography or the team responsible for ensuring safety of the air passengers in Nepal? Sure, Nepal is not the easiest place to fly a plane in. This is a mountainous country we are talking about. The runways are located at high altitude. While descending and taking off, which is the most dangerous part of the flight, pilots need to maneuver through difficult terrain. The Kathmandu airport, the country's main airport, for example, where the plane crashed today, is no different. It is surrounded by mountains. Also, a lot of runways are tabletop, which basically means you overshoot it and you fall in a deep gorge. And to top that, the weather in the mountainous country is hard to predict. One moment, it's a clear sky and a good day to fly, and soon you are trapped in cloud cover. Visibility goes for a toss. In the year 2015, for example, a Turkish airline plane skidded off the slippery runway of Kathmandu airport. The plane had 238 passengers on board. It was forced to land in dense fog. Thankfully, all on board survived. But in 2018, a flight from Bangladesh was not so lucky. It crashed at Kathmandu airport. Several lives were lost. So yes, it is challenging to fly in Nepal. By no means am I discounting that. But tonight, I must also ask this question. Has enough been done to ensure that despite these challenges, the skies of Nepal can be made as safe as possible? When the Yeti Airlines plane crashed, we told you how in Nepal, the most basic protocols of civil aviation don't fly. Every time a plane goes down, a probe is launched, a report is published, but corrections are not made. The Jumla crash I just told you about, the investigative committee found that the plane went down because the crew did not follow protocol. And to top that, there was insufficient flight training program by the Yeti management. So, also, the Civil Aviation Agency of Nepal was not really on top of things with regard to what was happening at Yeti. In short, from the crew and the airline to the government, everyone was at fault. Did this report force a change in Nepal? No, it did not. A month after the crash in Jumla, another plane crashed in Nepal, the same model, the same airline, and the same reason. This time, the probe report said, and I'm quoting here, the contributory causes to the accident were insufficiency of CRM trainings at Yeti Airlines and lack of adequate oversight of Yeti Airlines by CAAN Flight Operations Division, quote unquote. Basically, the same story on loop. As per reports, corruption is rampant across Nepal's aviation sector. The Ministry of Civil Aviation has reportedly not complied with about half the accident investigation recommendations sent its way. It's the same case with the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, allegedly. They are not abiding with the basic safety measures. Sure, there are topographical and weather-related challenges at play, but things that can be controlled, things that are under control, are not being looked after either. Flight maintenance is another example, which becomes all the more important when dealing with aging fleets. You see, newer planes are expensive. Nepal's is a struggling economy, so airlines in Nepal often go for leasing comparatively older planes. Take, for example, Nepal's Buddha Air. It has 18 planes. The average fleet age, 19.5 years. This is as per Planes Spotter. Now, according to Flight Radar 24, the Saurya Airlines plane that crashed was around 20 years old. We are being told the plane was being taken to Pokhara for some repair work. There wasn't enough hangar space at Kathmandu airport, so it was going to another town for repair work. What was wrong with the plane really? We don't know yet. Was it not in a state to fly and yet cleared for takeoff? Again, we do not know. But these are questions that need to be asked. More importantly, they need to be answered. Because you see, Nepal's civil aviation has a problem of poor infrastructure, and it has cost lives, by the way. Many airports in Nepal don't have basics like a fencing or an emergency vehicle standards. Also in Nepal, airlines tend to get away with negligence. Reports say many operators are well connected. They have friends in parliament. It is a nexus of the moneyed claiming innocent lives. So tonight, as 18 families mourn their loved ones, Nepal must ask this question. Who is the villain in this story? Who is responsible for the fact that Nepal has recorded over 43 plane crashes since 1946? Planes have fallen from the sky across Nepal, from Manma to Jomson, Pokhara, Kathmandu, Dunai. The world knows this. And this is why the European Union has banned Nepal's carriers from its skies. This is why people are scared to board a plane in Nepal. Many don't have an option but to fly to remote places that are not well connected by road. It will be some time before we know the cause for today's crash, but the loss of 18 lives brings the focus back to those responsible for making Nepal's skies the most dangerous in the world. If you thought the last 2 weeks of American politics could not get more dramatic, think again. The twists and turns we have seen could fuel multiple seasons of a binge-watch-worthy television show, perhaps. Let's start off with the headline grabber at this point. Former President Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden bowed out of the presidential race, handing the reins to Vice President Kamala Harris. So with this sudden shift in the political landscape, the question looms, can Kamala Harris maintain her lead over Donald Trump? Yes, there is a lead. Let's get to the numbers. A recent Reuters poll conducted entirely after Biden's announcement to exit that race shows Harris leading Trump 44% to 42%. You see, before Harris was confirmed as the nominee, the race was already too close to call, with polls showing similar neck-and-neck results. Among the Democrats, Harris enjoys a favorable rating from 91%, with 75% believing the party should unite behind her now. Another poll from Maris NPR showing a similar tight race. Trump holds a slight edge at 46% to Harris's 45% in a direct contest. When third-party candidates are included, Harris ties Trump at 42%. Here, Trump commands the Republican base with 89%, while Harris garners 86% of the Democrats. Trump also leads among independents, a critical demographic, pollsters predicting that Harris's current boost may just be a honeymoon phase and expect the Trump campaign to soon respond more robustly. Let's just turn to another positive indicator for Kamala Harris. The Florida Atlantic University survey conducted just as Biden announced his departure shows Trump leading Harris by 5 points, 49% to 44%. Now, this is a notable improvement for Kamala Harris compared to Biden's 9-point deficit in the same poll. Harris also, by the way, shows strength with key demographics. She leads Trump among black voters, 68% to 20%. Hispanic voters, 52% to 43%. And white college graduates, 48% to 44%. She also, in fact, has a slight edge among women. A very important factor here, 48% to 45%. Given the expected prominence of the abortion issue, women voters, especially in the swing states, could play a decisive role. So how popular is Harris really? Might be too soon to tell, of course, but Harris definitely has been getting a lot of attention on social media, although indirectly. Alison Reese, a comedian, has become famous on TikTok for her impersonation of Kamala Harris. You might have seen her videos already. She has more than 200,000 followers on her account and gained another 10,000 followers on Sunday itself. And speaking of numbers, while Harris's numbers are promising in the polls, the betting market's telling a completely different story. On Tuesday, on the Betfair exchange, Harris's chances of winning standing at 29%, while Donald Trump holding a commanding 62%, a huge difference there. Similarly, Polymarket showing Trump with a 65% chance of winning against Harris's 32%. And let's not forget, just a week ago, when Biden was still in the race, Harris's chances were in the single digits. Her rise is significant, and Trump's lead has narrowed by 8 to 12%. So what's next really? Can Kamala Harris solidify her position and unify the Democratic Party? Or will Trump and the Republicans find a way to capitalize on the current turmoil? One thing is for sure, this political drama is far from over. Expect more twists and turns along the way on this race to the White House. Camp David near Washington, D.C. in the United States has become something of a symbol for landmark peace agreements, with U.S. presidents down the decades enabling some historical treaties between intense rivals there. A similar mantle is being donned by China these days, bridging some big divides in the realm of modern geopolitics. So is China the new Camp David? Our next report telling you more.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi hosts his Ukrainian counterpart Dmytro Kuleba in Guangzhou, South China. China presents itself as a neutral party in the Russia-Ukraine war. And the outcome of this meeting tells a story. The Ukrainian FM signals a readiness to resume negotiations with Russia. Ukraine, he says, values Beijing's efforts. He calls the talks rational and meaningful. Down the last few months, China has looked to paint itself as a mediator in the war, sending its envoy to Europe on multiple rounds of what it termed shuttle diplomacy, telling Hungary's Viktor Orban of the need for world powers to restart direct negotiations, calling for a political settlement of the conflict. Could China then be the catalyst to a solution?
Recently, both Russia and Ukraine have issued signals of varying degrees regarding their willingness to negotiate. Although the conditions and timing are not yet mature, we support all efforts that contribute to peace and are willing to continue to play a constructive role in a ceasefire and the resumption of peace talks.
Extend the Camp David idea to the Fatah-Hamas bridge facilitated by Beijing. Fatah and Hamas signed the Beijing Declaration at the closing ceremony of a reconciliation dialogue among 14 Palestinian factions held in China's capital from the 21st to 23rd of July.
Today we sign an agreement for national unity, and we say that the path to completing this journey is national unity. We are committed to national unity and we call for it.
The Palestinian national schism has defied all attempts at mediation since 2007. Though far from complete just yet, there are visible signs that China takes on the Camp David mantle.
China is ready to strengthen communication and coordination with all relevant parties, make continuous efforts to implement the Beijing consensus reached today, and play a constructive role in safeguarding peace and stability in the Middle East.
It probably started here, the surprise thaw between Iran and Saudi Arabia brokered by China in March last year. Bitter rivalry between Tehran and Riyadh had destabilized several West Asian countries, including Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen and Bahrain. A 2001 security cooperation agreement was reactivated in Beijing, and it spoke volumes about what someone described as the new post-American Gulf era. Does Camp David have a new avatar? Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Shifting focus for now, 2 landslides hit the southern part of Ethiopia in one of the deadliest tragedies to have unfolded in the Horn of Africa nation. The landslide so far killing 229 people. The search is on for those missing. The torrential downpour which engulfed the Gofa district in southern Ethiopia triggered the landslides in the last 2 days. As per reports, so far 148 men and 81 women are confirmed to have lost their lives. Locals could be seen gathered around the site of the tragedy, desperately searching for survivors. Reacting to the tragedy, the president has said that he was deeply saddened by the loss of life. He also mentioned that federal officials were deployed to reduce the impact of the disaster. The country comprises of 120 million people and is highly vulnerable to climate disasters, which include floods and droughts. Have you ever made last-minute travel plans? Say, a project you were involved in ended before expected. And now you find yourself with 5 free days and absolutely no work. What would you do in such a scenario? If you had the option, would you book a vacation and head off for a quick getaway? But what if the country you are booking a flight to or wanting to book a flight to requires you to first apply for a visa? In times of impromptu plans and endless travel, a strong passport is a blessing, to say the least. A passport's strength is determined by the number of countries the holder of that passport can travel to visa-free. That is what makes a passport strong. A London-based firm named Henley & Partners has released a list of the world's most powerful passports. Any guesses on which passport is on the top? Singapore. Holders of the Singaporean passport get visa-free access to 195 countries. You heard that right, 195 countries. There are 5 countries on rank number 2. Which are they? France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and Spain. Citizens of these countries get visa-free access to 192 countries. On the 3rd spot are Austria, Finland, Ireland, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, South Korea, and Sweden. Those who hold passports from these countries can travel to 191 countries visa-free. Where is the US on that list, are you wondering? Well, American citizens have visa-free access to 186 countries. The American passport ranks 8th on the list. And what about India? The Indian passport ranks 82. Indians have visa-free access to 58 countries. The list includes Fiji, Oman, Qatar, Bhutan, Nepal, Kazakhstan, Tunisia. So maybe you know where you can plan your next vacation for. What about China? Where does the Chinese passport feature on that list? At rank 59, 85 countries give visa-free access to Chinese citizens. Now, since we are talking about the world's strong passports, how can we possibly not look at the countries at the bottom of the list, the countries with the world's weakest passports, as per the Henley & Partners Index? Afghanistan is at the bottom, with visa-free access to 26 countries. The Syrian passport, meanwhile, is a tad bit better, with visa-free access to 28 countries. It is 31 countries for the holders of Iraqi passports. Yemen and Pakistan are hundredths on the list, with only 33 countries giving visa-free access to holders of these passports. Russian forces have launched a relentless barrage of missiles and drones against Ukrainian cities, while Ukrainian troops are struggling to counter the aerial threat due to a critical shortage of anti-aircraft weapons. Here's a detailed report from the battle zone, getting you the latest.
The eastern front lines of Ukraine are bearing the brunt of the fierce war with Russia. Battle-scarred Kharkiv is once again the victim of merciless bombardment. Ramping up its offensive, particularly in Kharkiv region, Russia employed a deadly cocktail of its S-300 missiles and modified FAB-500 bombs. These Soviet-era munitions, now equipped with modern glide kits, represent a dangerous evolution of Russia's air-to-ground capabilities. The range and precision of these weapons allows Russian forces to strike targets from beyond the reach of Ukraine's frontline air defenses. The Ukrainian armed forces are grappling with a shortage of man-pads, leaving their troops vulnerable to Russian drone reconnaissance and subsequent artillery strikes. This critical deficiency is allowing Russian drones to operate with near impunity, providing real-time intelligence and targeting information to ground forces and artillery units. The intensity of the conflict can be gauged by Ukraine's report of 83 combat engagements along the front lines within a 24-hour period. Russia claims to have made territorial gains in the Donetsk region, though such assertions are difficult to verify independently. The depletion of stockpiles among Ukraine's Western allies, coupled with production bottlenecks, poses a significant challenge to Kiev's air defense strategy as the conflict evolves the ability to counter Russian aerial assets, which may prove decisive in shaping the war's outcome. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Let me now ask you this question, and I know it's only the middle of the week, so it might sound like a loaded question, but perhaps you've already given some thought to it already. Do you want to live a long life? Also, would you want to extend your lifespan if you had the option? What is your thought or your reaction when someone tells you, oh, you are going to live 100 years, we were just talking about you or thinking of you? Does the thought of that scare you or excite you? Do you take it as a blessing? What if you really could extend your lifespan? In that case, should your gender matter? Should it matter if you are a man or a woman? Is there sex bias in laboratories? Let me now tell you why I'm asking you these rather loaded, thought-provoking questions. As per experts, the mice in labs around the world have one thing in common: their gender. If you think they are all male, you are absolutely correct, unfortunately. A Guardian report sheds light on a very concerning trend when it comes to longevity research. According to it, experts say that cages in labs across the world are filled with white mice that are all male. Can you believe that? I'm quoting from what the report says. About 75% of the drugs that extend lifespan in mice work only on males. The drugs were developed on male mice, then belatedly tested on both sexes, only to discover the females did not respond. But even though researchers know female mice react differently to drugs to males, there have been 0 studies on separate interventions that could help women live healthier, longer lives. Of course, extending the human lifespan is a crucial challenge as well as an opportunity for scientific research today. But is there a sex bias in lifespan research? Is science affected by gender bias? But why would there be such a sex bias? Why should it even exist? Does that mean women will lose out as far as research in aging is concerned? If we do crack the code to living a longer life, if such a drug ever becomes a reality, will it not work on women? It's a worrying thought. When couples say, I do, it would be safe to say they are thinking of a lifetime of bliss and happiness in togetherness. It may not have been too different for a couple who got married at a Kuwait courthouse in the year 2019. All was fine for exactly 3 minutes. Yes, 3 minutes. Till the bride, while making an exit, tripped on her dress and the groom called her, quote-unquote, stupid. Offended by the tactless remark, the woman reportedly turned around and asked the judge to dissolve their marriage. And reports say the judge dissolved their union right there. 5 years later, what is possibly the world's shortest marriage is trending on social media on the platform X. Many are praising the woman for her bold move in ending the marriage. The overwhelming verdict is that if that is the way the man behaves at the start of the marriage, it is better to leave him. Some even saw the bride's response as an inspiring and empowering act. You see, it is the story of a woman taking a tough stand. Before this instance, a Hollywood couple held the world record for having the shortest marriage. Actors Jean Acker and Rudolph Valentino said "I do" in 1919. Barely 20 minutes later, the bride started having second thoughts. She resolved her dilemma by allegedly locking her husband out of their honeymoon suite. Valentino supposedly knocked on the door, and when Acker did not open it, decided to go home. There are also reports of a couple in the UK, Scott McKee and Victoria Anderson, who in the year 2004 filed for divorce after just 90 minutes of marriage. The woman was reportedly outraged by her husband's toast to her bridesmaids. She apparently smacked him over the head with an ashtray at their reception to tell him it was all over. There is a video that I would like to show you at this point. It's a dramatic video of a breaching whale capsizing a boat. Let's just play it out for you.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
This happened in the United States, in New Hampshire to be specific. The 23-foot fishing boat was sailing in the Atlantic Ocean when a giant whale appeared out of the water. It struck the boat and flipped it over. There were two people on that boat. In the video, one of them can be seen plunging into the water.
Oh my God.
The person who filmed the video says he was on one of the nearby boats. He says the two people who were tossed into the water were quickly rescued by nearby boaters. One of the survivors, Greg Paquette, spoke to an American news outlet. He said it was a miracle that he was alive. Paquette said he did see the humpback whale in the water, but the mammal disappeared for a couple of minutes. The next thing he knew, the whale breached and landed right on the transom of the boat. Ryland Kenny, the other survivor, says he cannot really recall what was going on or what was going through his head when this was all happening. He says he is grateful to be alive.
Oh my God.
Shifting focus, Typhoon Gaemi unleashed chaos in the Philippines, displacing over 600,000 people in the country. A state of calamity has been declared after landslides and intense rainfall lashed the country. The National Disaster Agency said the storm did not make landfall in the Philippines but claimed at least 12 lives there. Typhoon Gaemi has made landfall in the country of Taiwan. The Philippine Coast Guard said 260 passengers in 16 vessels were stranded in ports, while airlines cancelled 114 flights out of Manila on Wednesday.
The situation here is severe. We are in need of help and attention. The floodwaters have risen beyond the second floor of the houses of residents, especially in the areas near the river.
Especially to those areas.
Authorities have shut schools, financial markets and offices in Manila and nearby cities. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. asked the disaster relief agencies to provide assistance and prepare supplies for isolated communities. Mayors of 16 cities in the Greater Manila region have asked for emergency funding. In the riverside city of Marikina, Emergency workers waded through waist-deep waters and used rubber dinghies to rescue residents from the flooded homes. People took shelter in churches. In fact, social media posts showed several vehicles stuck in the water or floating down the streets and highways. China's Maritime Safety Administration has launched its highest emergency level response for Typhoon Gaemi that is predicted to make landfall in the southeastern coastal province on Thursday. The country is currently soaked in water, especially in its central province of Gansu. On to the world of sport for now. The Olympics are back in Paris after a century, and the French capital is set to transform the traditional image of the Games by incorporating modern sports that resonate deeply with today's youths. The Paris Games are also emphasizing inclusivity and claim to be the first gender-equal Olympics. Here's a report on the changing face of the Olympics.
A city steeped in history is gearing up for an unprecedented change. For decades, the Olympics have epitomized athleticism through traditional events. When you think of the Olympics, the first images that come to your mind are usually Usain Bolt running away from his competitors on the track, Michael Phelps cutting through the water en route to 23 gold medals, Simone Biles taking the breath away with some gravity-defying moves. Track and field, swimming, gymnastics, these are the marquee sports that have long been the cornerstone of the Olympic Games. But now it's time for change. It's time to focus on these modern sports: surfing, skateboarding, breakdancing, BMX freestyle. These are the sports that resonate with Gen Next. A new era of inclusivity starts in the Olympic movement from Paris 2024. One of the new entrants is breaking. No, it has nothing to do with damaging something, but with dancing. The urban dance style within US hip-hop culture is now going mainstream.
I feel like from us being in the Olympics is gonna grow. Like, it's gonna grow. There's gonna be a new generation of kids that are gonna want to do it, and I'm just excited, man. And yeah, this is like a beautiful art form. You don't need anything. You don't need money. You know, you just need a dance floor. That's it. A dance floor and just yourself, your body, and self-expression.
At Tokyo, skateboarding and BMX freestyle events had the greatest media visibility of the new sports. Organizers have allotted more spots to them in Paris after their successful debut.
I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to compete in such a wonderful competition, and I'm really happy that I was able to win so that more people could see me skating.
French BMX champion Matthias Dandois was given the honor to carry the Olympic torch. He cycled on his bike in front of cheering Games volunteers to the Eiffel Tower.
BMX is going to be in La Concorde. I think one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful spots in Paris. They really put us in the center of the Games, and you know, we couldn't be more thrilled. I think we're going to show the world that BMX, skateboarding, break is the best, you know. And we're going to kick
Yeah.
The Olympics are ushering in a new era, aiming to reconnect with younger audiences, particularly in the pivotal US market. Over 100 years after Paris 1900 gave women a go at the Summer Games, Paris 2024 promises to host the first gender-equal Olympics, where half of the 10,500 Olympians will be women. And if you can wait for 4 years, then T20 cricket makes its debut at the Olympics. The times are indeed changing. Sports Bureau, WION World is One.
And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Namaste. Hello, friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon. Subhash Chandra Show.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at yoursarthi@such.org.in. The quest for an Olympic medal is sport's greatest pursuit. Over 10,000 sportspersons are descending on Paris to realize their dreams.
The Olympics, it's a sweet way, but it comes with pressure.
The Olympic Games are the pinnacle of sport, and they demand sacrifices from both sportspersons and those covering it. I'm Digvijay Singhdeo, and I will be tracking the best in sport over the next 3 weeks from here in Paris.
Can India's sporting stars double their tally from Tokyo? Will new stars emerge, or will sport's big names maintain their stranglehold? Watch Gunning for Glory through the Paris Olympics at these times on WION.